This is Psalms and Sermons. Answer me when I call, God of my righteousness. For you have relieved me in my distress. Be gracious to me and hear my prayer. So that's a passage from Psalm 4, verse 1. And tonight we're going to talk about something that we all long for. Peace. See, we live in a world of chaos, uncertainty, and stress, and everyone seems to be looking for peace. But here's the truth. True peace can't be found in the things of this world. It's not found in money. It's not found in success. It's not even found in the absence of trouble. True peace is only found in one place, and that's in the presence of God. See, Psalm 4 is a pretty powerful reminder of this truth. David authored this psalm, and he is considered the man after God's own heart. At the time, he was facing serious trouble. He was in distress, surrounded by enemies, but instead of letting his circumstances control him, David turned to the Lord in prayer because he knew where his peace came from. It came from God, from the God of his righteousness. So now let's look at some key points here that David is making in this psalm that'll maybe help you find some peace in the midst of your trials. The first point to call out is we need to call on God in our distress. See, David starts this psalm with a cry. Answer me when I call, God of my righteousness. He doesn't run to his friends first. He doesn't try to figure it out by himself. He calls on God. See, when troubles come, where do you turn? Do you try and handle it on your own, or do you turn to the one who can actually give you peace? David knew that only God could help him. And that's why he cried out to him. And listen to what David says. You relieved me in my distress. Oh, I love this. See, David didn't just remember the trouble he was in. He remembered how God delivered him in the past. See, he had a testimony of God's faithfulness, and that gave him the confidence to call on God again. See, some of us, we're facing distress right now. But let me remind you this. It's not the first time any of us have been in trouble, and it's not the last. It's not the first time God has brought us through it, and it won't be the last. See, if he's been faithful before, he'll be faithful again. So like David, we need to cry out to him in our distress. He'll hear us. Absolutely will hear us. Point 2 to cover in this psalm is we need to trust in God's righteousness, not our own. That's a key. See, David says, God of my righteousness. He didn't say, God, look at how good I've been. And he didn't say, God, I've earned your help. No, he said, God of my righteousness. Because what David understood is something that we all need to remember. Our righteousness comes from God, not ourselves. Some of you might feel like you can't call on God because you're not good enough, because you've messed up too many times. I know how that feels. I've felt that way. I've been there. I still feel that way sometimes. Well, there's good news. None of us are righteous in ourselves. We come to God not because we're worthy. We come to God because he alone is worthy. He is worthy. David understood that his relationship with God wasn't based on his own goodness. It was based on God's grace. And today, even still today, anyone can come to God with the same confidence, knowing that it's his righteousness that covers us, not our own. We just have to call on him. Now, the third point that I want to make is we need to find peace in God's presence, not in our circumstances. Let's take a look at the end of this psalm. In verse 8, in peace I will both lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, have made me dwell in safety. Wow. David was surrounded by enemies. And I know we've covered this in other Psalms before, but he was surrounded by his enemies. His life was in danger. But he says, in peace I will both lie down and sleep. How could David have peace in the middle of such a storm? It's because his peace wasn't based on his circumstances. Rather, it was based on the presence of God. And we can learn something from David here. Too often we think that our peace comes when our problems go away. But David's problems didn't go away. They weren't just knocking at his door, they were knocking it down. See, real peace, the peace that passes all understanding, it comes when we trust in the Lord, no matter what's happening around us. David could sleep in peace because he knew that God was in control. What is amazing about our God is this: that very same peace that was given to David is available to you and I today, and everybody else who calls on his name. When we trust in God's goodness, when we rest in his presence, all of us can have peace in the middle of our storm. We don't have to wait for our situation to change. He will give us peace right where we are, any season, anytime. So as we close tonight, let me ask you this: where's your peace coming from? Are you trying to find it in the things of this world, or are you seeking it in the presence of God? David shows us in this psalm that true peace is found when we call on God in our distress. Trust in his righteousness. Rest in his presence. Whatever it is you're facing today, you have to know that God is the source of your peace. He is the one who will lift you up from your burdens. He's the one that calms your fears, and he will give you rest. Just call on him. Call on him today. Trust in his righteousness, and you will find peace that only he can give. Let him fill you with his peace. Whatever it is that's weighing you down, whatever is troubling your heart, bring it to God. He will give you rest.